Okay, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming today. I'd like to make a few points, and then, of course, I'll be happy to take your questions. At our best, the NFL sets an example that makes a positive difference. Unfortunately, over the past several weeks, we have seen all too much of the NFL doing wrong. That starts with me. I said this before, back on August 28th, and I say it again now. I got it wrong in the handling of the Ray Rice matter, and I'm sorry for that. I got it wrong on a number of levels, from the process that I led to the decision that I reached. But now I will get it right and do whatever is necessary to accomplish that. First, I don't expect anyone just to take my word. Last week, I asked former FBI Director Robert Mueller to conduct an independent investigation to answer the questions raised about our process in reviewing Ray Rice's conduct. I pledge that Director Mueller will have full cooperation and access. We all look forward to his report and findings. I promise you that any shortcomings he finds in how we dealt with the situation will lead to swift action. The same mistakes can never be repeated. We will do whatever it is necessary to ensure that we are thorough in our review process and that our conclusions are reliable. We will get our house in order first. Second, and most importantly, these incidents demonstrate that we can use the NFL to help create change, not only in our league, but in society with respect to domestic violence and sexual assault. We are taking a number of steps. On August 28th, I said that the entire NFL would receive comprehensive information and resources and support systems for victims on domestic violence and sexual assault. We will re-examine, enhance, and improve all of our current programs, and then we'll do more. Earlier today, each NFL club and all our league office locations received information about and support organizations in their communities. In addition, our teams and league staff, everyone, will participate in education sessions starting in the next month, followed by training programs. These programs are being developed by a top group of experts. Some of them were announced earlier in the week. We will continue to identify and add expertise to our team. And we will ask the NFL Players Association to help us develop and deliver these programs in the most effective way. Third, we recognize that domestic violence and sexual assault exist everywhere, in every community, economic class, racial and ethnic group. It affects all of us. These are problems we are committed to addressing. But we cannot solve them by ourselves. Law enforcement, the criminal justice system, social service organizations, and families are the cornerstones to addressing this problem. For our part, we can add and we will do more. To begin, we have entered into long-term partnership with two leading national organizations, the National Domestic Violence Hotline and the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. The hotline received an 84% increase in their call volume just last week. They did not have the resources to reach even half of those calls. They need our help, and we are providing it. Fourth, We strongly condemn and will punish behavior that is totally unacceptable. Domestic violence, including child abuse, sexual assault, irresponsible ownership or handling of firearms, the illegal use of alcohol or drugs. These activities must be condemned and stopped through education and discipline. Our standards and the consequences of falling short must be clear, consistent, and current. They must be implemented through procedures that are fair and transparent. This is a central issue today. I'm here now because our rules, policies, and procedures on personal conduct failed to ensure that this high standard is met. But I want to make it clear, these are very complex issues. Our country has a legal system that everyone needs to respect. When there is evidence of misconduct by anyone in the NFL, we need to carefully consider when to act and on what evidence. Everyone deserves a fair process. You know I feel passionately that working in the NFL in any capacity is a privilege, something we must earn every day and must never take for granted. The vast majority of players, coaches, owners, and employees in the NFL stand tall, not only for their role in the game, but for what they do in their communities. To get all this right, we will bring together our players and their union representatives, coaches, owners, and outside experts who can help us set the right standards and identify the right procedures. I have discussed these challenges with the Players Association Executive Director, DeMaurice Smith. He shares my view that domestic violence and sexual assault have no place in the NFL. He and I will meet next week to bring together experts to help us establish and live up to the standards that our fans deserve and that we set for ourselves. I will be asking these experts to examine all current NFL policies related to employee and player conduct and discipline. They will address how to balance due process rights for those accused with the need to hold our personnel to the highest standards. They should also consider the current system for determining violations, including my role in the process. There will be changes to our personal conduct policy. I know this because we will make it happen. Nothing is off the table. Let me say it again. We will implement new conduct policies. They will have a set of clear and transparent rules for league and club personnel, owners, and players. My goal is to complete this by the Super Bowl. Football and the NFL have always changed and improved. We drive changes in the game through our competition committee. It reviews and updates the rules that govern the game on the field. Through this process of evaluation and reform, we keep the game competitive, entertaining, fair, and most importantly, do everything we can to protect our players on the field from injury. We go to enormous lengths to make sure players, coaches, officials, fans, our broadcast partners fully understand our playing rules and how they are enforced. That must now be our model when it comes to personal conduct. So like the competition committee and other league committees, I'm establishing a conduct committee to review these new rules in the months and years to come and ensure that we are always living with the best practices. There is no reason we cannot be as transparent and as effective on these issues as we are with the game on the field. I believe in accountability. I understand the challenges before me, and I will be held accountable for meeting them. Every day, so many of our players, coaches, and staffs are doing tremendous things in their communities. I couldn't be more proud of how they're using the opportunity to help make a positive difference. Today, I ask everyone that is part of the NFL to join me in making positive and significant changes going forward. I'll take your questions. Yes. Peter.
Peter Alexander from NBC News.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodell, appreciate your time.
Sure.
If any of these victims had been someone you love, would you be satisfied with the way the league has handled this crisis, and what would you say to them?
I'm not satisfied with the way we've handled it from the get-go. As I told you, and this statement indicates, I made a mistake. I'm not satisfied with the process that we went through. I'm not satisfied with the conclusions. And that's why we came out last month, on August 28th, and we said we're going to make changes to our policies. We made changes to our discipline. We acknowledged the mistake, my mistake. And we said we're going to do better going forward. We have a set of very complex issues that we have to deal with. That's no excuse. What we need to do is go and get some experts to help us. How do we do this better? How do we restructure our personal conduct policy and expect the kind of behaviors we expect, and to make sure that we educate, we train, we do everything possible to hit that mark for all of us. And when we don't, there'll have to be consequences for that. So I'm not satisfied with what we did. I let myself down. I let everybody else down. And for that, I'm sorry, as I mentioned earlier. But that's what we're going to correct, and that's what we're going to fix.
Roger, you've had pretty extreme unilateral power in deciding discipline, but as you've said a few times, you've gotten it wrong in a few cases, and that tends to happen when there's no checks and balances. How willing are you to give up some of that power, and do you think that that would be the right thing for you to do?
Well, Rachel, as I said in my statement, everything is on the table. We're going to make sure that we look at every aspect of the process of how we gather information to make a decision, how we make that decision, and then the appeals process. And all of that's on the table, and all of that is important information that we want outside experts to give us some perspective on and see if there's a better way to do it. We believe there is, and we believe we need it. We can't continue to operate like this.
Also, you've mentioned on TV last week that you guys checked and tried to get the Ray Rice video and any information. The Atlantic City Prosecutor's Office in an open records check says they don't have any electronic communication from the NFL asking for those kinds of documentation or the video. Can you give us sort of the trail of how you guys did that investigation so that people can know really what you put into it?
Well, certainly our security department works with law enforcement. They are fully cooperative. We gather almost entirely all of our information through law enforcement. And that's something else we're going to look at, Rachel. That's something, is that the right process? Should all of our information be gathered simply through law enforcement? We understand and respect what they go through and what the job they have to do, and there are certain restrictions that they may be under.
But they're saying they don't have a record. You guys asked for what you said you've asked for.
Oh, we asked for it on several occasions. According to our security department, we went through it. We asked for it on several occasions over the spring, all the way through June, from February through June. So I'm confident that our people did that, and so that's something that we'll have to discuss directly with them.
Commissioner?
Peter Schrager from Fox Sports, Commissioner. I was in Minnesota on Sunday, and I saw a mother with her two kids, both wearing Adrian Peterson jerseys, and she said to me, "I'm conflicted about this. I don't know what I should do. You know, he's their favorite player." Obviously, we had a similar situation in Baltimore with Ray Rice. We've heard from the sponsors. They've voiced out. What's your message to the mother with the two kids who has Peterson jerseys and doesn't know what to tell them?
Well, the first thing is that we're like the broader society in several ways. We're like a microcosm of society. We have a lot of young men, a lot of individuals that play or coach or executives, other individuals in the league that they make mistakes. And that is something that, while I'm disappointed in what Adrian Peterson was involved with. We want to see the facts, but I think what we see so far is tragic. It's hard to look at. I have two daughters who are 13. That's very difficult to see. And I think what we have to do is allow those facts to proceed. But the important message, I think, for all of us as parents is that our children are going to make mistakes. They need to learn how to take responsibility and be accountable for those mistakes and deal with those. And that's something that I and my wife Jane, we work very hard on with our kids. When you make a mistake, be accountable for it.
Commissioner Sharon Alfonsi from CBS News.
Yes.
In 2012, after Bountygate, you suspended Sean Payton for a year. You said ignorance is not an excuse. A lot of people think you're not holding yourself to that same standard. Have you considered resigning at any point throughout this?
I have not. I'm focused on doing my job and doing the best of my ability. I understand when people are critical of your performance, but we have a lot of work to do. That's my focus. We've been busy in the last couple of weeks. We have results to show for it. We've talked about some of them in my statement, but I'm proud of the opportunity that we have to try to make a difference here and do the right thing. We've acknowledged that we need to change what we're doing. Now we have to get to what are those changes going to be.
Roger,
Hey,
Bart
Bart.
Hubbard with the New York Post. There have been a lot of high-profile, high-level calls for your resignation. Following up on that question, what would you say to those people? Why do you feel like you should be able to continue in this role?
Because I acknowledged my mistake. August 28th, I said we didn't get this right. We're going to make changes. We made those changes. We're making those changes. We have a lot more work to be done, but we're moving in a very important direction by getting expertise to say, how do we do this better? We're all, as a society, having difficulty being able to deal with this. The NFL has got to take care of his house, as I said. And that's my focus, is how do we do this better as the NFL? And make sure that we keep everything on the table. We're going to make sure that we look at every aspect, from the collection of evidence to how we go through the process, to who makes the determination, what the appeal process is, and we'll make those changes that I believe will be beneficial to the league long term. In addition, I think we can make some changes, and I think they'll be positive in the domestic violence and sexual assault areas, child abuse areas. Those are things that we think we can make a big difference on at some point in time. But we better get our house in order first.
Mike? Roger. Mike Garofalo, Fox Sports 1. To your right.
Yes, Mike, sorry.
You mentioned due process in your statement. Right now, there's a lot of inconsistency. Ray McDonald is playing. Greg Hardy is not. Adrian Peterson's not. Jonathan Dwyer's not. You've got some guys on the exempt list. You've got some guys on the non-football illness list. Again, I know you mentioned that you want to take a look at due process and when to act. That's a bit of a slippery slope. How do you plan to handle that? And do you have a list to put these guys on?
Well, you're highlighting exactly the point, Mike, that we need to change our policies and our procedures, and we need to get some help in trying to identify how to do that. We have state laws that are different from state to state and even locally. We need to make sure that we have looked at when the NFL should be involved in the investigative process. We need to know how much reliance we should have on the law enforcement information. So you're highlighting exactly the issue, is that we do not have a clear and consistent policy that allow us to deal with all of the different issues that are arising. And that's why we talked last month about we need to change our policies. And we need to go get some experts to help us deal with some of those issues that are very complex about due process and making sure that we allow our employees and the opportunity to be able to defend themselves, but also make sure we're maintaining the integrity of the league and what we're doing. We have an obligation there. And we're prepared to do that, and we are going to do that.
Roger.
Yes.
Judy Batista. In your interview with CBS News almost 2 weeks ago, you said Ray Rice was ambiguous in his description of what happened in the elevator, and that is why you went back and suspended him further after the video came out. What exactly did Ray Rice tell you happened in the elevator, and how did what you thought in your mind happened in the elevator differ from what we saw on the video?
Well, Judy, a couple things. First off, as I said, that we got new information from the first time I met with him to my initial discipline, which 3 weeks later I acknowledged was not sufficient, that it was clear there was an act of domestic violence, but it was inconsistent with the way he described what happened. When we had that new information, we had the ability to say, we're going to interject and we're going to take additional action. And that's what we did. So there was new information that developed because we had not seen that second tape that became public roughly 10 days or so ago. And that was not consistent with what he said.
Commissioner, what did he say? What did he tell you? What happened?
Well, the one issue with this is now a matter of appeal. As you know, the NFLPA has appealed this. So it's a matter that is going to be taken up in the appeal. So without prejudging or without getting into any specifics on this one, I've got to respect at least the appeal process right now.
What about transparency? You keep talking about transparency. Why not say what he said?
Well, I'm telling you right now that it's inconsistent with what he told us, what we saw on that video when it came out roughly 10 days ago. But we have a process right now. We have an appeals process. That information will come out at some point in time.
The process is not about those details. The appeal process is more specific to them saying they got multiple punishments for the same crime. So given the fact that what he in fact did is not what the question is about.
Well, Peter, I may disagree with you there. I think that's something that the appeals officer is going to have to determine. We have not seen all of the papers on appeals. It is a fact that there's an appeal, and they may be able to raise several issues in the context of that appeal. That's a decision that they have to make. I can't make that.
Commissioner, to your right.
Yeah.
Andrew Rosario, Rise TV. You mentioned the two women's groups that the NFL will be working with. Can you give us an idea of how you'll be assisting them? And to follow that up, if the 32 owners had a vote today about whether or not you should keep your job, what do you think the results would be?
Well, that's a hypothetical which I can't deal with. We had 20 owners in the office this week for pre-scheduled committee meetings in preparation for our league meeting next month. And we're just focusing on getting our work done, and so are they. So we had very productive meetings with them. Your first part of your question was about the different organizations. What we saw in our contact is that because of the attention this issue was brought by the Ray Rice matter and potentially other issues coming to light, this is something that became a need for what our experts tell us was happening in the community. What is happening is that there's clear that there's a need for people to seek help in all communities, and that's why they saw a spike in this. What we want to be able to do is to be able to help provide assistance to them, and that was something we could do. And we said to them, we want to be involved, we want to help, and we will provide resources and assistance to be able to make sure that you can get the personnel there to be able to answer those questions. And we're pleased to be able to do that. We should be providing that kind of assistance.
Dan Graziano.
Dan Graziano, ESPN.
Yes, Dan.
The AP report about the video being sent to your office cites a voicemail wherein someone confirmed receipt of it. With that in mind, I mean, how do you explain that amid the league's denials that they had the video?
Well, Dan, that's exactly why, as I mentioned in my statement, that we hired Robert Mueller, the longest-serving director of the FBI, to make sure that that individual, Robert Mueller and his staff, they go through and they find out as many facts as they possibly can and report. It's independent. I don't know where he is on that, but all that information will be something that Director Mueller will be dealing with.
You've been clear throughout your tenure that you would be hard on people who committed crimes. Why do you think the domestic violence crimes, such as Ray Rice, gave you such a difficult time and weren't treated as harshly as maybe some others were?
Well, as I said to you early on, is that we made a mistake in letting our standards fall below where they should be. We should have had our personal conduct policy reviewed more frequently to make the changes necessary to deal with the issues that have changed. We last changed that policy on a broad perspective in 2007. It's had a positive impact on overall number of criminal activity. But what we need to do is go back and say, okay, we're in a different age now with different issues and different challenges. Let's go back and figure out how to do that again and do it in a consistent and fair way. And that's what we're doing with the outside experts.
Was there something about domestic violence crimes, these specific ones, that made it more difficult for you to adjudicate them?
Well, I think the policy itself was, again, not up to standards. The standard discipline for that was way below what it should be. And when we saw the first video, it was horrifying. And we went through the process, and we disciplined them consistent with that policy. That wasn't sufficient, as I said. That was a mistake. So we had to go back and fix our policy in the short term and say, this isn't sufficient discipline. We met with a variety of experts on this. We came to a conclusion of what the discipline would be, at least as a standard, with aggravating circumstances that could allow us some flexibility, and also that we would banish on a second offense. So we took a very strong position saying this is not acceptable. Now we have to get back into the more difficult work, which is how do we understand when the NFL should get involved in a particular situation with law enforcement, with the criminal justice system, and how do we make sure that our policies will give us the flexibility to deal from state laws that vary from state to state, and to try to give us that consistency so that it is more difficult, it is more simple to be able to make those decisions on a fair and consistent basis.
Peter King?
Roger, Peter King.
Yep, Peter.
Do you still believe that, to the best of your knowledge, that no one in the NFL office has seen the Ray Rice video before it surfaced on TMZ?
Yes.
Okay. And secondly, do you believe that right now you have the full support of all 32 owners in the NFL backing you in what you're doing right now?
Peter, I believe I have the support of the owners. That has been clear to me. They obviously expect us to do a better job. And as I said to several, I don't like to let down anybody, Peter. Myself, it starts with myself. I hold myself to the highest possible standards. So when I make a mistake or I don't get something right, it bothers me more than anybody. I think the owners have seen that in me. I think they know that we have always tried to do the right thing. Mistakes happen, and I'm sorry for that. And we're going to get this right, and that's what they know.
Roger, Barry Wilner from AP over here, Roger.
Yeah, Barry.
You've announced a new personal conduct committee. What will your role be with that, and are you reducing your role or your power in these kind of cases by having that committee?
Well, I think the personal conduct committee, and we'll have to develop it further, and who might serve on it, whether we'll have outside expertise that will join that, is really about what are the standards, what's the conduct we want in the NFL, how do we want to represent ourselves, what's important to us as a league, and we want to make sure that we're holding ourselves to that standard and maybe exceeding it. That would be the great thing, right? We want to exceed every single standard we set, and that's what I expect this conduct committee to do, similar to the competition committee, is how do we improve everything we're doing? Evaluate it on a regular basis. If our personal conduct policy needs to be changed and updated, we need to do that. And I would expect that the conduct committee would oversee that.
Dan Kaplan, Sports Business Journal.
Hi, Roger.
Hey, Dan.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
A number of corporate sponsors have put out disapproving statements in the last week. How many difficult conversations have you had with your business partners? How many have suggested that if things did not improve, they would pull out? And did you specifically talk to Anheuser-Busch, which put out a particularly disapproving comment?
Dan, it starts with what I just mentioned before, is that I disappointed myself. I disappointed the NFL. I disappointed our fans, our partners. And we need to do better. And I made that clear on August 28th to our ownership. I made it clear since. I made it clear to sponsors directly that we are going to do better in this area. There are things that we need to clean up in our house and make sure we get right, and we will make a difference in this area. Now we have to deliver.
Were you close to losing a sponsor?
Pardon me?
Were you close to losing a sponsor?
You'll have to speak to the sponsor about that. I don't believe so.
Morgan, CNBC.
Hi, I'm Morgan Brennan, CNBC, and just to piggyback off of that question, what are your comments on the fact that Procter & Gamble pulled its partnership plug today?
Well, again, we've been in contact with our sponsors. Several of them have promotions in the marketplace that are inconsistent with obviously what's going on here, and we understand that. And what we said is, we're going to clean up our house, we're going to get this straight, and we're going to make a difference. And they want to see us make that difference. And that's up to us to deliver on. So they want to see us achieve that. They're not looking for talk, they want to see action. And that's what we're looking for. And that's why we've been focused over the last couple of weeks so hard on getting it right. Do the things we said we were going to do and get it right. And do the hard work. This is not a quick fix. This is something we've got to work hard at. And we will.
Mr. Goodell.
Hi, Roger, you talked about establishing a personal conduct committee, and you said the goal was to be completed by the Super Bowl. What to be completed by the Super Bowl? Because aren't these issues constantly evolving?
Yes.
Personal issues?
Yes, and that's why we want to get to work immediately. The conduct committee is not the committee that I would expect to make the changes in the personal conduct policy. What we have to do, and I spoke to Dee about this, is reach out for experts in the area. Some may be in law enforcement, some may be in the criminal justice system, some may be experts in the domestic violence or sexual assault or child abuse area, and bring all of those experts and their views on this of how we can improve the policy. Everything from how we collect information to when the NFL is involved with law enforcement, or do we have a separate investigation? And those are all difficult issues to ensure they have due process. Anybody is involved, but also make sure we're maintaining the integrity of the NFL.
So the idea to have the committee in place by the Super Bowl, or to start making some of those
I
decisions?
expect I will have the committee in place by the Super Bowl, yes.
Mr. Goodell.
Commissioner, Aaron Katursky from ABC, thanks for doing this.
Sure.
I wondered if you personally have ever been involved in an abuse situation in any capacity. And then secondly, I wondered if you anticipate any personnel changes, if not change in commissioner. How can you bring meaningful change and credible change and change the culture and change the attitude without a change in personnel?
The first answer to your question is I have not. The second answer to your question is we are making personnel changes. We announced several of them over the last week. We have more to come. We're looking to see how do we strengthen our team in this area? How do we bring the right voices to the table to make changes not only in what we do, but more broadly? And so I expect personnel changes will continue. That's part of how we get better. That's part of how we evolve and learn from our mistakes and do a better job going forward.
Mr. Goodell.
Commissioner, sorry.
Yes, Kip.
Two things. One is when you made the original suspension of 2 games, were any women advising you? And second, in your personal conduct policy that you're revising, are you willing to put that into the CBA?
On the first one, I think you're pointing out exactly what we're concerned about, is that we didn't have the right voices at the table. We need to get better expertise. Some of you know we announced earlier this week that Lisa Friel is joining us as a former chief of sex crimes in downtown New York. I think she's going to be able to provide a very valuable perspective for us in understanding the criminal justice system, particularly in this area. And those are the types of people we want to have part of our organization and part of our decision-making process.
Mr. Goodell.
Yes.
Miguel Marquez.
I'm Benji. What's going on? Ow! What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't take me to an elevator! Don't take me to an elevator! Please! Don't take me to an elevator! Please!
Okay, we're going to CNN.
Sorry about that.
I had nothing to do with that. Mr. Goodell, Miguel Marquez from CNN.
Yes.
I guess there's a lot of confusion from fans out there about the mistake that you say that you've made. You talk about your investigative department at the NFL. Regardless of what Mr. Rice said on June 16th, regardless of what was on that second videotape, on the initial summons, it clearly says that Mr. Rice struck Janae Palmer with his hand rendering her unconscious. Why wasn't it enough then to put this right?
Well, it was, and we saw obviously the original video, and it was clear that a domestic violence violation had occurred. That was clear to us, and it was horrifying. And that's why we took the step we did. We did the 2-game suspension and a fine of $500,000. It was not sufficient. And that's because our policies, as I indicated earlier, had fallen behind where we need them to be. We needed to get those policies in a position where the standard for that kind of violation has to be much higher. And that's why 3 weeks later we raised that standard. And we said, this is not going to be acceptable behavior. And when it occurs, it's a minimum 6-game or the standard 6-game with aggravating circumstances that we can consider and have additional penalties if necessary.
Commissioner, you mentioned Robert Mueller's investigation as key to solving all of these issues. I'm not going to sit here and discuss the integrity of the ex-director of the FBI. I could leave it as a given that he's a man of integrity. But the law firm that he works for and that will help him carry out that investigation is a law firm with extremely close ties to the NFL. You guys paid that law firm recently to help you negotiate some television deals. The president of the Ravens, who will be key in this whole investigation, worked at that law firm for more than 30 years. Why hire someone with even the appearance of impropriety, and how do you expect this to affect everything?
Well, Rachel, I would respectfully disagree because you now are questioning the integrity of the director of the FBI. Yes, that firm has represented us in the past, but they have also been on the other side in litigation against the NFL. So this is a highly respected individual that served as director of the FBI, the longest serving director in the history of that position. His credentials are unparalleled and unquestioned.
But part of the idea of this, I guess, is to restore public trust. So even if he does a flawless investigation, isn't there an element here of you're leaving the door open for doubt?
Well, Rachel, unfortunately, we live in a world where there's a lot of litigation. There are a lot of law firms, a lot of people who have had maybe some interaction with us in the past. Robert Mueller has not. Law firms may have, but we were hiring Robert Mueller and his credentials, his credibility to do an independent investigation reporting to the owners, and I am confident that that will be the case.
Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
Has he interviewed you yet? Has Robert Mueller interviewed you? It's been a week since you announced this independent.
That's something that Robert Mueller is going to have to announce. We are not disclosing or involving. He's running an independent investigation. He will meet with anybody he wishes, whenever he wishes. He will get full cooperation from me or anybody else in the building. I'm not making any comments specifically on the investigation. He has full access. If he feels he wants to speak to anybody, he will do that.
Mr. Commissioner, Adam Glenn here with Commissioner Adam Glenn here with TMZ and TMZ Sports. I have to go back into the video and your curiosity to see the video. You suspended Ray Rice after our video. Why didn't you have the curiosity to go to the casino yourself?
Well, two things. We suspended Ray Rice originally after seeing the original video that was disclosed back in February. When the second video came out last week, that's when we increased our discipline because that was inconsistent with the information we had. It was new information. One of the things that I said in my statement, and I've said repeatedly here, is that is part of what we want to do with all of our experts, outside, internal, is try to figure out how should we investigate these issues. In the past, we have been almost completely reliant on working with law enforcement and cooperating with them. We do not want to interfere with a criminal investigation. In particular here, when you're dealing with a casino in New Jersey, there are even more restrictions because it's overseen, I believe, by the Attorney General. So we have to be very cautious of not interfering with a criminal investigation, but we'll evaluate that. Should we do more to get that information? I would have loved to have seen that tape. Should we do more to get that information in the future? That's a question I want these experts to do.
We found out by one phone call. You guys have a whole legal department. Can you explain that? We found out by just one phone call.
I can't explain how you got the information. Only you can do that. So.
Chris Strauss, who
Two questions on the, right here, Commissioner.
Yes.
Two questions on the Ray Rice situation. The first one, do you regret having Ray and Janae Rice in the same room together when you met with them? And secondly, have you decided who will be hearing the appeal for Ray Rice in your office?
I have not on the second part of your question. I'll be making that decision shortly. Someone else will be hearing that case. On your first part is yes. It's part of the learnings that we've had throughout this is that there are certain proper ways of having those kinds of discussions when couples are going through a domestic violence issue. And we have learned that. And we have learned that from our experts, is that we shouldn't have them in the same room, or we should give them the opportunity to speak separately also. And that's something that we have learned from this and we will correct going forward.
Commissioner, what do you say? You can't speak out about some of the individuals who have cases that have not yet been resolved, but what do you say to the one individual in the NFL under scrutiny right now, Brent Hardy, who has been convicted of attacking his girlfriend? What's your language that you would say to him were he standing in front of you?
Well, we're disappointed in where he is. We think what he did and what he was involved with, at least what's alleged in the court records, he was convicted, and then what happens when he appeals that is it's wiped out until he goes to a jury trial. So you're highlighting exactly, can I finish? You're highlighting exactly the issue that we're concerned about, which is when do we engage? There was a conviction, it then gets removed until the jury trial, and then should we let that go all the way through? We were pleased with a. You're
in the middle here, Roger. In
Really
the middle,
quickly,
Tara
can I ask a
Sullivan
quick
from the
question,
Record.
please?
Yes.
My hand's been up for a while. Jerika Duncan from CBS News. It's obvious when you look out on the field, a lot of these players, it's a diverse crowd. A lot of the players that have been highlighted recently are African American. Can you justify not having an African American as part of that group of women that you've hired to look into sexual assault and domestic violence?
Well, that's not true. We have internal experts that have been working on this that are people of color, that are women and men, and they have been involved with this process from the beginning. In addition, as I said in my statement, is that we will continually evaluate, do we need other resources? Do we need other individuals? Do we need other organizations that can help us make. Well, those three women are advising us, as well as we have full-time staff, including an African-American woman who has great experience in this area and has been involved in this for several years with the NFL and has been on the NCAA level. So we understand the need for diversity. It's important for us, and we will always look to be able to do whatever we can to improve on that.
All right, thank you. We're good.
Okay.
Very good.
You going to get that?
Yeah, I got it.